Hey everyone, welcome to this PM lesson live mock interview. As you know, this is a live mock interview where we ask experts how they would go about answering some common PM interview questions. I'm super fortunate to be here with Mitchell Kim today, who is at LinkedIn. He also was a part of the PM lesson course, and he is a PM lesson coach now as well. Mitchell, do you want to say anything else about yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Stephen, for having me. Yeah, I used to work at LinkedIn, and some situation with my visa, so I'm still on flex, but and I've been serving as a coach for PM Lesson, enjoying that a lot, and yeah, and I'm excited for today's session with Stephen. So looking forward to it.
Cool. Maybe before we jump in,
Hmm.
any tips or advice that you have for a person recruiting right now, someone who's interviewing right now, maybe just one piece of advice that you might have?
Yeah, I guess two things that really helped me the most. First is just I did a lot of mock interviews, whether it was through, so I was a client of Stephen actually when I first got started out. So I got help professionally too, but I just grabbed a friend, whether it was through online or whether it was just a friend from school, and did tons of mock interviews. And it just made me a lot more comfortable, a lot more prepared and confident. And I just knew what kind of questions will be asked during the actual interviews, and I was able to replicate that when I practiced. So I would recommend anyone trying to recruit for product management to do a lot of mock interviews prior to your interview. And also, another thing is people usually don't put much emphasis on behavioral questions. Um, it depends on companies, but LinkedIn especially cares a lot about the culture fits and the people that we hire. So I would highly recommend people to go through your resume, look at the bullet points that you've listed in your resume, and then really make sure you have the stories, compelling, coherent stories that you can tell for commonly asked behavioral questions like the conflicts you had in the past, or what kind of changes have you instilled in your organizations. Those are pretty common questions. So I think you can prepare for every experience that you have listed on your resume, and then that will make you a lot more they'll make you stand out during the behavioral questions portion of the interview. So that's another piece of advice that I would give.
Awesome. Yeah, I really resonate with the practice is something I tell a lot of people is just um, how important it is to get the practice in because you don't realize what you don't know until you practice. You get a lot of good feedback. And you were really good at that, I think, Mitchell. You really did a good job practicing. You got a great opportunity.
Thank you.
Andri is in. Hey, Andri. He's from the
Hey,
Ukraine.
yeah, that's
Just
awesome.
saying hi. And for those of you watching, we encourage you to comment with questions, with thoughts. Any constructive feedback would be helpful as well. And we also really would love to have you like and subscribe to either the YouTube channel or the Facebook, whichever is better for you, or both if you'd like. It helps us make sure that we can keep doing these things and know that they're valuable to you. So without further ado, let's get into the question. Is that
Sounds
okay with
great.
you, Mitchell?
Sounds great.
Cool. So the question that I want to ask you today is, how would you design an experience or a product that would encourage people to vote more?
Okay. Um, I'm going to take a couple more seconds to think of the
Cool.
question, and then probably ask a lot of questions in the beginning since it's a little vague, I would say. So when you say designing an experience and product, are we talking about like a digital product, physical product? Do you have a preference, or do you have something in mind?
Let's stay in the digital world,
Yeah.
given that
Mhm.
this is let's assume we're interviewing for a digital tech
Mhm.
company.
Sounds great. And I think it could be a more scalable solution in this case. And then are we trying to design, you said experience or product, something that covers the entirety of like a voting experience from like learning about the candidates to like casting their votes and then hearing about the candidate or the results? Or are we like trying to have a little more focus and then try to come up with like a single product in that within that experience that is probably the most prominent experience use case?
It's a good question. Let's focus on the latter. I don't want us to
Mhm.
redesign like all of voting.
Sounds good.
That's a
Yeah.
little too much for a short interview.
Yeah, and then I'm not too familiar with like the voting election processes outside of the US. So is it okay if he just constrain it to the US and something similar, that's something systemically similar to the US?
Yeah, let's keep it to the US for now.
Mm-hmm.
And we can have a small chat later if we want to talk about how to expand to different countries.
Totally, sounds good. And like presidential, House, Senate, I would assume it doesn't really matter, and then we'll try to tailor towards all kinds of voting experience and election processes. Or do you have something in mind here?
It's up to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. And before last question, do you have any demographics in mind? So are we trying to help older people get to like the voting location easily, or are we trying to target the younger population, the millennials, or do you have anything in mind here?
It's a good question. Let's just say from our data, we're specifically looking at younger people as the people that we are seeing there's an opportunity for them to vote, but they're not voting.
Totally.
And so we want to find a way to target them and to help bring them in. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think it goes well with our target of designing a digital product, since they may be a little more tech savvy. Okay, sounds good.
Good point. Yeah.
And give me would you mind if I take like 30 seconds to just organize my thoughts a little bit? And yep.
Go for it. And for those of you watching, I'll be taking notes during the session, and then I'll be providing feedback afterwards to Mitchell, so that we can make sure we get a good sense of how the interview might go in an ideal way.
Yeah, thank you for that. Just before I start, maybe I'll just walk you through the process that I will talk about in the next 20 minutes. I will probably focus first on the different user pain points in the voting experience, like why are they not voting? Why is this particular younger generation is just not interested in voting? And then after listing some of those pain points, I'm gonna go ahead and prioritize some of them based on some factors. And then after nailing down the pain point that we're solving, I will brainstorm some solutions and features that we can build to solve that pain points. And then once again, prioritize those solutions and features based on some criteria that I come up with. How does that sound to you?
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. And so first question is like, why aren't young people in the US or not? Why are they not voting? And here, I think we can make some assumptions that maybe they just don't understand how like the political voting system works in general. So that's like first assumption, first pain point. Like they don't know how like the House, Senate, this electoral system work, maybe, so we can work with that. Or maybe it's just too inconvenient on the voting day for them to get to the voting location. So maybe you can help with that. Or to dig deeper into this a little bit, maybe younger generations, I can speak for myself too, like prior, I just like don't know much about politics, don't really care about the candidates, like what kind of proposed policies that they have in mind. It just looks similar to me. And then I had this kind of negative perception towards politics. So maybe that's something that we can tackle. So that's like another assumption. And lastly, maybe they're just frustrated with the political landscape. Like they would cast some votes in the past, and then they feel like either their voices aren't heard because like their candidate didn't win it, or even if he or she won, the policies, or they just can't see in effect in real life how their votes, their support is changing the world in a way that they want to see it happen. So maybe some of those assumptions that we can work with. So just to summarize again, they just don't understand how the voting system works, and they just want like a primer to that. And B, it's just too inconvenient to get to the voting locations. Just the logistics is kind of keeping them away from voting. And third, maybe they just don't understand the candidates, their policies, like the politics of it. Or D, they do understand it, but once they cast their votes or show their support, they just don't feel like their voices are heard, or their candidates are winning the election per se. So after these assumptions, unless you have something that you really like of the four, I can just go through them and then prioritize them based on what I think is going to be most impactful. How's that sound to you? Yeah.
Thanks for checking in. And no, that sounds great. Go ahead, and I'd love to see you. These are a great initial set of four, and let's talk through them.
Yeah, and I guess before prioritizing, I guess I want to step back and then think about like our goal. for this product. So we said we're building a product, single product, digital product that will help younger generations vote more in the US. And that's the ultimate goal. But just thinking about this, there are certain things that come into mind, and I think the most important thing is just usage and user adoption. So voting, we're just trying to get this younger users who these days have so many other things that are distracting or that they can put their attention into, but we are trying to build this product that can fit nicely into their routine, their rhythm and stuff like that. So I'm gonna maybe put user adoption and usage as our primary focus for building this experience. Yeah, and cool. And then lastly, another factor that I'll think about is like how crucial is this pain point in the experience of voting, and then I really want to tackle the biggest problem that is holding them back from voting. So I will keep that in mind also as I prioritize. So looking at these. Don't understand how the political voting systems work in general. While I agree and empathize that it is complex, I feel like a simple Googling I feel like this use case is not as prominent or is not as impactful. We can solve it by not building like a full-fledged product, but can do it by more content or more awareness, in my opinion. So that's what I think. And also, the second assumption of inconvenience of getting to the locations, I think, in my opinion, once you have the desire and the knowledge to vote for, you will find a way to get to the voting location, in my opinion. So like, especially nowadays with ride sharing apps. And then in my previous school, we used to have shuttle buses on voting days to help people get to the voting location. So I think the bigger problem here is not the logistics or to getting to somewhere to vote. It's more about the desire and awareness that's strong enough for these people to have the desire to vote. So I would say let's focus on the two assumptions that really touch on those areas. A, they don't know much about the politics, especially the candidates and their policies. And B, they do, but they feel discouraged because when they cast their votes, they just feel like their voices aren't heard. And in my case, especially thinking about our target user group, which is the younger folks, although I've seen younger folks who are especially passionate about politics, I would assume the main reason that is holding these people back from voting is they just don't know much about politics, candidates, and proposed policies. And I feel like although there is some frustrating factors, if you're passionate about it, you will still go ahead and then cast your vote. So thinking about this, I think the most prominent and most impactful use case or pain point that we can tackle against is just general awareness about the political landscape and the candidates and the proposed policies that these younger folks that would be interested in casting their votes. How does that sound to you?
It sounds great.
Yeah.
I really like the breakdown and how we talked about it. So we're talking about awareness is the key goal that we want to push. What's a key assumption that we are making here that, if wrong, might change our decision?
Yeah. So I guess the number one assumption here is younger people don't vote because they don't know about the politics and the candidates and the policies is the strongest assumptions that we're making. So testing that will be the most important thing for us to validate as we build out this experience.
Yep. Okay, great. So with that assumption in mind, let's go ahead and drive forward on this idea that awareness is the main issue, that we're not getting our voters to the polls.
Yeah.
To the actual votes, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. With this assumption, the question is, how do we build a product to teach this user population about the politics, especially the candidates and the policies? And I guess some factors that I'll be thinking about is maybe this younger folks I mentioned, there are a lot of things nowadays, digitally especially, that grabs their attentions and a lot of their interests. Maybe is there a way we can tie politics and voting into their interests? And what are the mediums and channels that they frequently visit, and how can we meet them there? Maybe that's one thing that we can consider. And also just like if I were the user, because I am that demographic, younger generation, who isn't as involved in the political landscape, like what would I actually use that product if it's out in the market is something else that I will think about, and just the right rhythm and a cadence that we need to push out the contents to raise awareness is the last thing that I would think about. Yeah, and then with that, if you could give me like a couple minutes to just brainstorm a couple solutions, and then I'll walk through them and then prioritize them in front of you.
Cool. Sounds good. And for those of you who just came in, we are doing a live mock interview with Mitchell, who is PM at LinkedIn. We are doing the question, how do you design a product to encourage people to vote more? To engage with us, we'd love for you to like this video right now and send us reactions and thoughts and comments. And for you to chime in later also if you'd like to ask Mitchell any questions or me any questions during the interview about this particular interview. And you can always subscribe to us on pmlesson.com, where we have a ton of online free content for you to put your best foot forward with your PM interview.
Sounds great. Yeah, and thanks for waiting, Stephen. So I came up with a couple of features, 3 or 4 here, and I'll just mention those to you. And then if you have anything that you like, we can focus on those, or otherwise I'll go through some prioritizing exercise later to figure out what will be the best feature to build out here. So one thing, just thinking about like the right mediums and channels and the user rhythm that these younger generation folks are more familiar with, inspired me to think about maybe stories in like Instagram story or Snap story style of political app, where candidates can push out short clips of them talking about their involvement in the local sector they are trying to they're going in the election for, or just something about the policy they're sponsoring, or just in general, just something to raise awareness about their campaign. So like a simple live video campaign platform that we can build out for younger generations. Another feature,
Mitchell, just to ask about this one. So is this something we're imagining that's like a separate experience, or is this integrated into a different, like a Snapchat or an Instagram?
Yeah, so I'm talking through and then thinking out loud as well. And last point that we mentioned before going to solution is like, would I actually download this standalone app? I think the answer to that, in my opinion, is no. So I think it would be the best if you can integrate with the existing platforms that users are already on, like Instagram or Snapchat, so we can meet them at the right medium of the channel. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think that means that we should ditch the idea. I'm just curious how you're envisioning it.
Yeah.
And so if we wanted to go down this path, we could do something. I think there's creative ideas where we could, partner with Instagram and have like a section of Instagram that's like Instagram 2020 election or 2020, for any, or, maybe it's just like Instagram election feature, and then we can explore the different candidates there. So I think it still is a good idea, but it's helpful for me to know where your head's at in terms of the experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. And And
keep going. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries. And maybe we can test it first with the integration idea first. That's a little cost effective. And then if it's taken on, we can probably spin it out as a separate app. So I think there are a lot of things that we can explore there with the right channels. And another one is just that idea of tying the political and voting system into the existing interests that, or maybe the locations of these users. Maybe we can build a platform where these users can come in and then subscribe to certain issues, certain interests, certain locations, like San Francisco, as an example. And then we will regularly send out as a digest or build out like a discovery platform for these users to find candidates, find policies that has to do with certain regions or certain interests that they are particularly passionate about. So that's another idea. And maybe the third is when I think about politicians, I really don't know where to go to find out more information about these politicians. I usually Google them, and the Wikipedia page is pretty hard to navigate sometimes, and it's a lot of articles, but some of them are from one side and another side, and it tends to be a little more polarizing rather than factual, in my opinion. So maybe something like LinkedIn for politicians, where it is more tailored towards the careers that these politicians and policymakers have gone through. So not only their prior work experiences, but how many bills have they written and how many have they gotten passed, or how many appearances in public have they been in, and then what did I say? What did I talk about? Did I do any fundraising? Did I run any ads on Facebook per se, especially in this climate? And how involved were they in this local scenes that they're trying to run for? So maybe something like that, LinkedIn for politicians, where we can go in and then just learn more about this politics is tailored towards this particular profession and election. And last idea, I think this is a little bit out there, but maybe something worth mentioning is just a social aspect of election and voting, and especially something that this younger generation is familiar with, like who is my friend voting, why? So how to make voting a little more fun in a social environment. Like obviously there are things that we need to think about and hash out, because usually in democratic society, you really don't tell other people who you voted for, but you usually do after in private. So maybe we can tap into that space and then facilitate the conversation in a more civil manner, and that in which way that would encourage people to vote more. So that's the last idea. So just to recap, like Instagram, Snapchat style stories, platform where a candidate can raise awareness about their campaigns or policies or election in general. And second is a platform where you can subscribe to a certain issue or a region, and then we will send out, maybe through a digest or on a discovery platform, the candidates and policies that are specific to the interests and locations that you subscribe to. And maybe third, LinkedIn for politicians, where we have a platform where you can lay out your footprint as a politician, and where we can, as a voter, check out those and then send and show support. And lastly, who is my friend voting, type of a social voting app that could encourage more discussion and voting in general. So yeah, how does that sound to you?
Awesome. There's a lot of cool ideas, a lot of interesting conversations we can have about these ideas.
Yeah.
I wanted to just first focus on the Wikipedia, sort of LinkedIn for politicians.
Mm-hmm.
How do you make sure it's factual? So we already kind of talked about how Wikipedia is not totally objective, but why would this platform be more objective? And who will be maintaining that information? Will it be the politicians? Will it be a curator? Will it be the public? Like, how does information even get there?
Yeah. That's an interesting question. And I think here mainly there are three directions that we can go with creating the contents and editing the contents and validating the contents. Like one is, as you said, you mentioned all three already. One is by politicians themselves, since it is their profile or it is their information. Second, we can have a designated editor who can curate the information and edit them as the time progresses. And third way is crowdsourcing. So really relying on the public, relying on the users that we're going after to validate some of the claims that this politicians make about their experiences and past. I think there's trade-off to everything. Politicians, I think, owning their contents would be most factual. That maybe since it's coming from them, so we'll have less risk of maybe we post something and then them disputing it. So it will be coming from them originally, and they will have more vested interest to keep this contents fresh and up to date. So that's one thing that we can rely on. But obviously, there is knowingly some trust issue with the public and the politicians. So some people may ask, hey, this platform is just a shiny thing where politicians really look good, but we don't really know the full picture. So there's that side of a risk with having solely relying on the politicians to have the information up to date. And the editor, I think it could be the most objective source of information if you be careful in selecting the right numbers and variety of editors, but also there's a scalability issue as we build out the platform. So there's that. And crowdsourcing, I think, is the most scalable solution, but also the internet and how we mentioned the Wikipedia and the Google records can be polarizing. Sometimes it would be hard to really understand what is fact, what is not. So I think there's trade-off in all these accounts. I am leaning towards all of the above. So I think there's a way that we can bake all these into a single platform in a way that makes sense. Maybe we can have the politicians type in the initial information as they sign up, and then they can regularly update the information as they progress through their career. And then we can have a few editors that really make sure these accounts are factual, and then have them arranged in a way that makes sense. And lastly, we can add crowdsourcing by the public to maybe on the profile, they can show validation, show support, or just like Wikipedia, they can come in to request for edits in cases that it doesn't make sense or they don't agree with certain things and they want to voice their opinion. So I think when we build out this platform, we can, I think we need actually all three of these factors to really build out a platform that is factual, that is most up to date, but also engaging to the public. How does that sound to you?
That sounds really well thought out for sure. And it does address a lot of my concerns, or I have a sense of how we can play with it. When I'm now, and increasingly product strategy is a part of some of these interviews. And so I wanted to ask you, in terms of, and this is maybe a little digging into politics, but like, what are the main groups of people that you might have to convince to make this product actually go to market? So let's say that we're working on this product, we want to take it to the market. However, which group of people do you think we're going to face the most resistance from in pushing it out?
Yeah, I think just first thought is definitely the candidates and the politicians themselves. For them, it is a huge step to really put themselves out there, and then they'll be facing probably a lot of support, but also at the same time a lot of criticism as politics goes. And they'll have to they are the ones who have to put the initial efforts to make this work, and then also use this platform actively and advertise it. And they will be, if we get them on our side, I think they will be the biggest supporter as well as ally in terms of pushing this. So I think convincing them in a way that, hey, this is how you campaign now in the digital age to the younger generations, and then this can help you win the elections and actually raise awareness. I think that sending that message to this target demographic will be really important.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I would add that the parties themselves might be, because they're kind of affiliated with the politician, and there might even be a situation where one of the parties agrees to it and the other party doesn't. And then how would that affect your platform if just one party agrees to that platform? Yeah,
that would be really interesting. And I think it's problematic because once one party, say Democrats, agree, and then all the Democrats politicians are on, it is easier for Republicans to say, hey, that is a left-wing platform, and then we got nothing else to do. So I think it will be ideal to get both platforms in, but part of me thinks like if this really works and then Democrats are having a lot of success and in terms of engaging with the younger generations, there could be some aspect of like FOMO from the other party as well. And then I think if we want to focus on the Democrats and really nail that down, and there's a way to like convert the other side as well. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's really good to think about this kind of stuff because in this product, the go-to-market strategy is actually really important. Like if we're really thinking about it, because a lot of like you don't want it to become a Democratic platform or a Republican platform. That's not the point. But perhaps you can do that and then use the pressure of just like, hey, there are eyeballs here. We're getting a lot of traction to bring in the other parties.
Totally.
Cool. I kind of dug deep on that one. I wanted to just pop back up a bit and, in not all interviews, I don't want us to like go through the user flow with this one necessarily, but just wanted to get a sense for you, like what your priority was with the different options that you listed. And we can kind of, and I know we talked about like social aspect and some other stuff too. So I just wanted to give you some space to talk about you know,